lay lo mein, okay? And if you want a combo, so if you would like either, let me know. Listen, I would love to cook for y'all. You know, if the lo mein lady is cooking and you're not sharing, so they need to get their own, okay? Make sure you DM me or text me if you have my number.
May they feel and experience all the love I put into this meal just for them.
Welcome back to Sister Voices Speaking. Today we will be speaking to Chef Africa Lynn.
Hi, Chef Africa Lynn. Hey, girl.
Hello.
What is going on? Where are you right now, and how are you?
I am peaceful, I am grateful, and I'm here in Washington, D.C. at the fabulous Anacostia Arts Center. And I'm having a wonderful afternoon and excited about this interview.
That's beautiful.
Thank you, girl, for being here, girl. So you're in DC. How is the weather in DC? How is it there? I've always wanted to go to DC and tour. I still haven't gone to the White House, and that's something that I still would love to do. Tell us a little bit more about DC. How's the weather? How is it down there?
Washington, D.C. is, it's amazing. It's home to me. The weather, we get all 4 seasons, and it could happen in 1 month or 1 week, depending on the transition of it. But it's beautiful. The architecture, I love it. You know, a lot of the museums are free because they're Smithsonian's. So there's a lot of culture that the residents and people who visit have access to. The White House, the Capitol were built by slaves and indigent servants. So there's a lot of history to this city. And actually right now, I'm actually about maybe 2 blocks away from the historic Frederick Douglass home. So yes, I'm very happy to be from DC. I consider myself a Washingtonian. I've been here since 4 months old.
Wow, that is so amazing. I think that is beautiful, the fact that you're surrounded by so much culture. And I don't think a lot of us knew or know that the White House was built by African slaves. I kind of learned that actually last year. I didn't really know that. I just kind of thought it was a monument. Didn't really know much about that monument, but come to find out it was built by African slaves. And there is Black museums in DC. I had heard recently that there's a museum dedicated to Black culture. Is that true?
Yes, it's, if I can get the name correctly, it's the National Museum of African American History and Culture. It's beautiful. It's one of those museums you can't do the whole museum in one day. You know, I usually do a floor or 2.
Really? Wow, that's amazing. Wow.
Yeah, that sounds incredible. I'm a person that loves art and loves history. But what is it that you do currently in terms of being Chef Africa Lynn, the lo mein lady?
Yes, I was working in the ABA field as a behavioral therapist, working with children who have developmental disabilities. And I've been doing that just for a little while, and I found so much love in that because I love children. But for the last year, I've been doing Lo Mein Lady. So I started Lo Mein Lady during the tail end of the quarantine part of COVID. And I was doing it to survive because I wasn't working at the time, you know? And so as that continued to grow and it continued to flourish and I got all the good feedback and the demand got greater, I decided that this wonderful career that I found with working with children was nice, but it wasn't really what was gonna sustain me passionately and financially. Excited to fully engage full-time into the Lo Mein Lady.
Well, I think that is so fantastic. Having that skill to be able to make delicious, scrumptious food. It's just, yeah.
I think
So,
there's something that you mentioned. I'm sorry, Misty, just give me 1 second. I think there was something that you mentioned that's very important. You didn't feel that your job was going to sustain you emotionally and fulfill your life fulfillment. And I think a lot of us are missing that in our lives. I would even have to question my current career working for the state, in a degree working with children, except I work in child support. And it's a lot when you work in that field, hearing the different stories that some of these people are going through. It's very, sometimes I leave after work and I'm just like, oh my God, I need to just woo some. I need to get in my car, go for a drive. It could be tough. So when it comes to that life fulfillment part, how did you get grounded to know that that was what was going to make you happy and that was the choice that you needed to make instead of just having that job?
Yeah, so I'm very blessed. I'm very blessed. I have an innate ability. I will say it's a God-given blessing that allows me to pretty much be able to do whatever I need to do, whatever career field I choose. I tend to do fairly well at, which is why I've had so many different experiences. However, I found that when I am true to my creative self, when I'm in that zone of being able to be creative, and I'm finding passion behind what I'm doing, I flourish financially. I have peace in my mind and peace in my home. And it's just something that I realized. And so when COVID came, for example, and I was no longer working my regular job, I still didn't know where my space was for creativity because we were quarantined. So I
yeah.
found myself in a very depressed state, and just very lethargic and very just out of it. So, but as soon as I started cooking, it lit a fire in me. And I mean, and that translated with the people who I cooked for. They got to feel the passion, taste the passion in what I do. So it's been wonderful connecting back to what fulfills me and sustains me internally as well as financially.
Well,
That is,
that's a blessing right there.
yeah.
Definitely being able to feed people with the joy of food. So I think
My
it's
girlfriend
amazing.
Misty, a quick story. She was always the homegirl that always made you something to eat. I loved her for that. Like she would say, "You girls want some chicken nuggets, or do you girls want some tater tots?" I used to love that. Actually, I couldn't wait to have the snack. I used to be like, "What's the girls want to ask or something?" Because I'm greedy. I like to eat, and she will always have some good old Kool-Aid, some good old sweet tea, and she always had a little snack, Mother Bear. So that is so adorable. Now, where did you get the idea to do lo mein, girl? Because that's my thing. I love me a good old lo mein, honey. Where did you get the idea to come up with lo mein?
So, in Washington, D.C., there is a Chinese takeout. We call it carry out. There's a Chinese carry out on like every other corner. Each neighborhood has about one or two of them. And as I grew up, I realized that majority of the families were feeding their children from these carryouts every day, even if the kid or the family was just getting French fries or getting a shrimp and broccoli. They were always eating at the carryout. It was inexpensive at the time, and it was really convenient. And sometimes you got to remember, living in these urban cities, sometimes people didn't have utilities on, so lights and things like that to heat up the stove, gas. So going to the carryout was something that was common. Is still very common in the DC area. And so even though generally my lights were on in my home and everything, I still enjoyed the carry out. It became a part of our culture. And I just noticed a decrease in value and in quality of the food, but the prices steady going up. And so one day, long story short, right? So one day I went into the carry out, and this is after eating and feeling sick, after eating at different carry outs. And I think it's an unspoken rule in DC that you stick to your one carry out. You don't go to multiple carry. You stick to your one on either side of the city. But I would go to these carrots and I wouldn't enjoy the food. I would get sick. So I decided, you know what, I'm not going back to the carry out to get lo mein because it's always disappointing me. And so I got in the kitchen, I got on Google and found out, you know, where to find the ingredients that I wanted. And because I am a chef and I've been a chef for a long time, I pretty much knew what goes in it. But I went on Google and I found out where could I find these places near me to purchase these items. And once I found it, that was it. I served. I cooked for myself. I couldn't believe what I had created. I called my neighbor to come over and taste it because I didn't trust my own taste buds because I was too impressed. And he affirmed me, his family affirmed me and said that it was so delicious. So I'm grateful that I found something out of almost nothing. Yeah.
Girl, I seen a lady on your page. She took a bite. She said, and got comfortable. I said, oh, that's when you know it's good, okay? When you gotta sit down and marinate, that's when you know it was good, girl. So you said that you are a chef. Tell us a little bit about your upbringing and cooking. Did you bring some of your home traditions into becoming a chef? Did you learn it? I myself am a sous chef. I'm not a full chef. I'm a certified sous chef. So I will work with a chef. Now, for me, I bring a lot of that Southern Caribbean cuisine. Tell us about your upbringing and cooking. Was it in your household? What made you become a chef?
So yes, my mothers, my aunties, we grew up in church. So, you know, we were in church and we grew up apostolic, and I'm a reverend even to this day. But we grew up apostolic, so we were in church from early in the morning until late at night. And so one thing that was consistent on any Sunday was that we were going to eat at church. My auntie breakfast in the morning. They would help cook for that transition between morning service and evening service. And then whenever we came together, we would eat. I became immediately immersed and fascinated with food. I wanted to know how to make it. You know, I didn't enjoy restaurants that much. I liked the food at home more. So I was the kid who was in, the fifth grade. I wasn't that great at math, right? But I had a friend who was. This is just a quick story. And I said, well, if you come over and tutor me in math, I'll cook for you. I don't know what he expected, but in fifth grade, on that day, he came over to tutor me in math, and I made him fried pork chops, mashed potatoes, and
Yum.
shortly.
You talking my language. When you start talking like that, food and yumminess, you talking my language, girl.
Yes. Shortly after that, my dad, he wasn't the best cook, but he was a willing cook. So he would show me the little things that he knew. And then I went to a high school that had a culinary arts department. And through that culinary arts department, I became a chef. After I left there, I worked for the District Chop House and Brewery, which is a very nice restaurant here in DC. And then from there, I went to Jillian's, and I was a banquet chef at Jillian's for a little while also, which is in Atlanta, Georgia.
Oh, wow. Okay. That sounds amazing. Now, how do you balance all that? We're going to turn the tables a little bit. Now, you are a reverend, chef, and a wife. To me, that's trans excellence. How do you balance it all?
One day at a time, and sometimes 5 minutes at a time. I don't know, just being a woman means wearing many hats anyway. We have to be the caregiver, we have to be the protector, sometimes we have to be the provider. And I think it's just about finding our flow, and for me, my authenticity kind of makes room for me. I've learned through my authenticity to set boundaries, which means to, I guess, I won't say monitor, but kind of put a framework of boundaries around expectations. I know when to take of church. I know when to tell hubby I need me time. I know how to, I haven't quite mastered how to take off of work, because sometimes
Oh.
Sometimes
I
it's all,
haven't mastered that either. That's probably something that we're all going to be working on, learning to take time off from work. Because girl, you're like my polar opposite. We have so much in common. And your work, you love to work a lot and get things done. So that's something we all are going to have to learn to work on.
I never put a day off into my schedule. That's the weird part, because as an entrepreneur, you make your own schedule. So I have Mondays for shopping, Tuesdays for prep work, and then the rest of the week I'm cooking. And then on Sunday, I'm serving in the ministry. So I didn't schedule a day off. And I don't know why I didn't, but now the wheel is turning, and I just see expansion in the future, and hopefully I'll be needing help. So
What would you say? What would you say about being spiritually grounded in terms of making this complete for you, what you're doing with your life? Like spiritual core. What would you say that plays as a part of it?
Yeah, I think the spiritual groundedness plays the largest part in my productivity. And you spoke of the things that you all believe make trans excellence, and I think just being spiritually grounded allows for those other things to take place. And by being spiritually grounded, I don't mean like a spiritual know-it-all. I don't mean like a religious, zealot. That's not what I'm referring to. When I think about spiritual groundedness, I think it's the ability to wake up with a grateful mindset, even if everything isn't okay, because life is happening for everybody, on its own terms, but just finding a place where you can just sit and be grateful, where you can insert prayer to your higher power, whomever that may be. And even if you don't have a higher power, just to believe in the highest version, the highest vibrating version of yourself, taking time to pray, taking time to meditate. And meditating, not the same as contemplating, right? Because I think some of us, I did this. I would sit and I would think about all the things that I wanted to do. I want to create like a meditation room. I wish I had a nice pillow to sit on, and all these different things I would think about when meditating. But now meditation for me is more just about how still can I be? How much can I, if my thoughts wander off, can I bring them back to concentrating on my breath? And what I find out of that is that I'm important enough to take that time to do it. And then another part of being spiritually grounded is realizing the worthiness of your own self, of my own self as a vessel. I have a body, but I am spirit. And knowing that my spirit desires, requires, and needs self-care. So I take bubble baths with rose candles.
Nice.
I love jazz music. So I do everything that's needed to make sure I'm okay. And then I move forward with the rest of the day. And that really sets the tone for me.
That is so amazing. I love that. That is amazing.
Yeah, I think that it's great to have that. But what would you say is the importance of transformational thinking from someone that's kind of surrounded by a lot of low vibrational stuff, and they want to elevate upwards, like focus to their best point of being, like to their greatest self?
That's an excellent question. For someone that's surrounded by a lot of low vibrational energy, trying to find out how to vibrate higher within themselves, I would say just really identify and find out where you're truly vibrating. I find that when I'm vibrating on a low frequency, I'm kind of comfortable around low frequency vibrations. And so in order to change what I'm comfortable around, I have to look inside myself and see where the adjustments need to happen. So for someone in that position, I would say take a breath, be present, and decide in which ways am I being kind to myself? In which ways am I not being kind to myself? How can I treat people around me better? What am I worthy of? And I think people have, especially if you're Christian. Everyone's not Christian, but that's my perspective because I am. I have been raised in the Christian church. But for a lot of people from that background, especially when you listen to gospel music, there's this theme of, oh, we're not worthy of God's love or mercy or whatever. But I don't believe that. I think we didn't always earn it.
Right.
Oh, I see. Whereas we're all worthy, but it's just what we choose to do with it, whether we want to listen and hear what the universe is telling us or not.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a lot of things telling us that we're not worthy and that we don't deserve it. So the last thing we need to do is believe that God thinks that about us, And so I believe that we are all deserving of God's love, whether we earned it. In fact, I don't think we can earn it. I think for a Christian mindset, that's why we have Jesus, And in other systems, that's why there's always a way. I mean, even the Buddha would say, when you're distracted and you're not grounded, you're not centered, enters in through that point. You have to come through whatever your discomfort, whatever your challenges are, and enter your peace through that point. There's no way around. There's no easy way. You have to take the stairs. There's no elevator to peace.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that I loved about your place of worship. I love that the place of worship incorporates the ancestors. And when I saw that, I was like, wow, because, most churches, they're like by the book and it's this way and they don't really incorporate our culture, which I think we're missing. Like, I love your name, Africa. I'm Storm. I always represent Africa. If you look on my profile on my media page, Facebook, my business page, it says Africa First, and it says what I do. I always turn to Africa first. I always give them praise. And I love that your place of worship delivers that. Can you tell us a little bit more about your place of worship and the name and where it is, and if we can find it virtually, and just a little bit more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for asking. So I attend a church by the name of Inner Light Ministries, UCC, Washington, D.C. UCC stands for United Church of Christ. So we're a part of that fellowship. And the founder of our church is Bishop Kwabena Yao Rainy Cheeks. And our pastor is Reverend Dr. Wallace Henry III. You can find us on Facebook at Inner Light Ministries, DC UCC. And I don't know the website off the top of my head. I'm sorry about that. I should have had that written down. But we're located in Washington, D.C. In fact, we just ended our service at about 12:30 today here in the Anacostia Arts Center is where we hold services. So if you come to the Anacostia Arts Center, we're in the Black Box Theater, and we have a wonderful time in worship. This church has been such a transformational, pivotal aspect of my growth and development. I found this church when I was probably I was at my lowest point. That was 14 years ago in 2008. I was at the lowest point that I didn't think that I could, there was no going down from there. I was at the bottom.
Would you ever have imagined at that point where you're sitting right now and how you're feeling and how much light that you're giving off, like when it was a time of like darkness?
So yeah, that time was the darkest period of my life. I was trying to figure out how to express myself as far as stepping into adulthood.
Yeah.
And trying to make peace with my gender in society. And what I mean by society, I really just mean that was at a time when, men didn't wear tight pants, which is so far different from what we see today, right? But the men, men didn't wear tight fitted pants. So me wearing girl clothes was out of the question because, we would get beat up for that. We would get beat up for wearing tight clothes, and they could be, men assigned clothes, and we would get in trouble, like with our peers for that. So, just to touch on your question and to go back into the other question, that was a time where I just experienced being raped twice as an adult, and I was only 21, I believe. Yeah, so I had already been raped twice. After I found the church, I ended up getting raped again. So it was a really dark time frame in my life. I had been in mental institutions, just trying to get peace, with family, with religion, and what the world expected of me. And so when I found Inner Light, there was a message of hope and love and acceptance, and told me that I didn't have to be anything other than who I am, and God would love me. I was told to be unapologetic and to be authentic. I was told to love me. I was told to look in the mirror every day and say, I see the God in you. And so I took those things that I learned, and I
say that one more time, girl. Please say that one more time.
I was told to look in the mirror and say, I see the God in you. Yeah. My next level, because from there, I was able to commit to classes to become a licensed minister. And then I became an ordained reverend 7 years after that. So yeah, I'm really grateful for my journey. And Inner Light has been the absolute needed piece in my process.
That is so beautiful and amazing. Thank you for that. Thank you for sharing that moment. So we can find Inner Light Ministries on Facebook. I will put the link on my Facebook social media page as well as my Instagram page. And if you're ever visiting DC, give us the location one more time if people may be into DC visiting or driving through.
Yes, Inner Light Ministries. I had to enunciate that because sometimes people think it's Inner Life, but it's Inner Light, Light. And that's located at the Anacostia Arts Center in Washington, D.C., which is on Good Hope Road. So I think it's 1231 Good Hope Road, Southeast Washington, D.C.
And if they want some scrumptious lo mein, they know exactly where to go to.
If you want some scrumptious lo mein, you can stop by on my social media platforms. Instagram is Lo Mein Lady, that's LOMEINLADY_official. If you're on Facebook, then you can search for the group LO space MEIN space LADY, and you will find me. To place an order with me, you can pre-order with me by sending me a direct message. And if you have my phone number already, you can text me.
So
fantastic.
Time is running out. But before we go, we wanted to find out just a little bit more about wifehood and being a wife really quickly. How long have you been married, and how has your marriage been through this process?
Yes, my marriage began after 2 years of courting as friends. We didn't know that we were on the path to forever love. We didn't know that was happening. We thought we were just becoming best friends. Until one day, and so I met him in 2008 when I got to Inner Light Ministries. And that's a story that maybe I'll tell another time, because that's the sweet story, right? And it might take a while to go through it, but I met him in 2008. We got engaged in 2010, and then we got married in 2012. So it's been 10 years on July 1st, 2022. And yeah, it's been beautiful. Steps towards living in my, I'm sorry, I have background noise. But steps living in my authentic truth started in 2020. So it was at the beginning of COVID. somehow I got the courage to live in my truth. I live in the city, so there's going to be noise. Sorry about
Okay.
that. But I decided to live in my truth. My husband has been a team player the entire time. You know, to some degree, I don't think he saw it coming because we had discussed my gender identity in the past, but we never really talked about transitioning, you know, making those steps to live in my truth. So I'm very grateful for his support. We've had some challenges, just getting used to, you know, it's like anything else in life. When something is new, it takes a little while to get used to it. Just like he went to a vegan diet. There were challenges in our home because he stopped cooking for me, you know, because I didn't, you know, but then we found our balance. And so in the same way with this transition, it's caused us to make some adjustments. No, it has not at all been easy on him, but he's made it very easy on me. And I've been equally supportive of him. And one thing I say is that, you know, in a marriage, the idea is that you jump hurdles together. And that doesn't always mean simultaneously, right? Because I think in the past, he would jump the hurdle and look back and say, come on, Africa, you can do it, you can do it. And then I would jump. And then likewise, and in this way, I would jump the hurdle. And then I would look back and say, come on, babe, we're not going to the next one without each other. So come on, let's go. So we overcame some of those challenges. Therapy is very important, couples therapy. Our both of us are reverends. So our ministry platform and our has allowed us to get the, you know, some of the tools that we needed to make things work, but communication is key. So I'm very grateful.
Lynn, Chef Africa Lynn, I want to thank you. Our time is tickling gone down, but we want to say thank you so much for being part of Sister Voices Speaking. We're hoping for a part 2 because we need to know a little bit more about that lo mein. You're gonna give us that recipe, girl. I know it's a secret, but girl, you might have to give up that recipe. So Chef Africa Lynn, thank you for being a part of our journey. We will talk to you soon. We love you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. Bless you.
You're welcome.
Bye.